How is it to live in Madrid? Who is this video for? If you are planning to move to Madrid in 2026, if you are just arrived to Madrid or you are just curious about life in Madrid, then this is a video for you. Hi everyone, my name is Dunja and I am an expat originally from Serbia, lived many years in Austria, and now I have been living in Spain for 3 years, of which around 2.5 in Madrid. And here I would like to share with you my impressions about life in Madrid and what are the good sides, what are the bad sides, what are in between things, and who might enjoy living in Madrid. So let's dig in. Let's go to the challenging stuff. First thing, and I mean this is probably not strictly related to Madrid, but there is a lot of bureaucracy. Spanish bureaucracy definitely should not be underestimated. There are many rules that are constantly changing. There are many documents that are usually needed. Everything is in Spanish and sometimes in a very technical, legal Spanish that is very difficult to understand. It's even challenge sometimes for Spanish people to understand it completely. There is a system of getting appointments, which is different in every administrative office. And sometimes you need to know at which time to ask for appointment. Basically, all the appointments are made online. And sometimes it can even show you that there are no available appointments, or for example, if you want to get this foreigner identity card, in many cases it will tell you that there are no available appointments in the core city area, but you need to go to places outside, to towns outside of the central Madrid area. And sometimes you will get appointment like in 2.5 months. When I first moved to Madrid, I was looking for an appointment in January and I got it for April. The waiting times can be quite long and it can be quite overwhelming. But things somehow get done. And thanks to these appointments nowadays, usually the waiting time in these administrative offices are generally low. So once you get the appointment, most likely things will work out. And of course, once you get appointment and bring the documents they ask from you, because if you have no all documents, then it's of course again very difficult. Second thing, this is quite characteristic for Madrid and maybe a couple of more bigger cities like Barcelona, but it's the housing. So the housing in Madrid became a very big issue because the rent prices are just too high for the salaries here. Less and less people can keep up with these price increases. Even if you are willing to pay for a flat, you can sometimes suffer to actually find it. Because I remember when we moved out from our previous flat, we were just out of curiosity checking how it is going, the renting of our old flat, because we noticed that the price increased by 50%. And he realized that the flat disappeared from the ad within less than 24 hours, even though the price looked to us like very overestimated. And there was this kind of rule, and some people were advising you to negotiate the price so that the price that you see at the advertisement can be lowered down. And nowadays, I am not sure this is the case anymore, because if flats are disappearing within one day, I'm not sure that the owners have time to get desperate enough to lower the prices. Of course, there are other problems you have regarding the housing issues, like that you have to deal with the real estate agencies. They are charging the fees. There are deposits. Sometimes deposits is difficult to get back. Also, you have to be careful. You need to know which. Basically, there are many neighborhoods in Madrid. If you are just moving to Madrid and know nothing about the city, it can be quite overwhelming to look and make a decision where to move in, because Of course, there are some neighborhoods that are not the best, but it's not just that. It's also you have to find something that really suits you regarding the price, the surrounding that it's offering. For example, where is the closest sports center? If it has shops that you are looking for, like a gym that is suiting you. If you want to go to a language school, then it's close to a language school, close to your work. If you have kids, which schools are there nearby? So here in Madrid, it can be quite overwhelming. And one more thing, many buildings are quite old and the isolation is quite bad. One is the heating isolation, so that sometimes it's very difficult to warm up the flats in winter. And the other thing is that the noise isolation is also quite bad. So sometimes you can hear your neighbors like they're just sitting right next to you. One more thing that is on a negative side is the work culture and salaries. For beginners, salaries are actually quite low. Some people in some sectors, they work quite a long hours. Some can stay until late at work. It can be actually quite difficult to find a good job in Madrid, even though there are many companies. And of course, in Spain, Madrid is one of the best places to go to look for a job. But it can be quite challenging, especially for the beginners. And I mentioned as a good side at the beginning is the climate. Summers are warm. Some summer days are quite pleasant, but it can most of the time it gets really really hot. For example, from mid July to end of August, people are only going out past 8 p.m. This is why also dinners are starting so late here, especially in summer. Those who have holiday plans or have family outside of Madrid, they basically leave the city, so city can actually be quite empty. And if you are thinking about visiting Madrid as a tourist, definitely it's not advisable to do it in August, because you will probably not be able to see much or go out much because it's really hot. The city could be cleaner. If you go in the center, I think the city is quite clean and it's quite okay, especially these neighborhoods that are very touristic, very central. But I don't like how the rest of the neighborhoods just outside of the city center are organized. Here, many people are like dog owners. They don't really clean after their pets, and I don't know. I don't know what makes the difference between the center and the outskirts. If the owners are different, or just in the center, people are getting fined more if they don't clean after their pets. So I don't know what makes the difference, or if there is someone in the city in the center cleaning after. I don't know, but I really don't like how the neighborhood sometimes looks like. There are not many bike lanes, and traffic generally sometimes can get quite a bit crowded. Compared to some other European cities, here there is no biking, cycling culture. So it's really not advised to cycle. And very few people is actually using a bicycle to get to work, for example. Also, there are not enough biking lanes. And the drivers, they are not really used to cyclists. So it's actually quite dangerous to cycle on the street with the cars, because the drivers are not really taking care. Some highways can get quite crowded during the rush hours. Of course, depends on so many conditions. If it's raining, if there was an accident, if there are constructions, some days it can get quite bad. And a couple of more things somewhere in between. One thing is language and integration. If you don't speak any Spanish, yes, you may have a problem. Even though this is a big city and there are expat groups, there are a lot of expat groups, you will find people who speak English. But with Spanish people and generally native Spanish speakers, it's going to be a bit difficult. Even those that can speak a little bit of English or can speak English, they usually avoid it because they are very shy when it comes to speaking a foreign language. Reaching the level of Spanish that you really integrate, you make friends in Spanish, of course, you go out for parties and you participate conversations at parties or at maybe even like lunch breaks at work, it takes time, and this can feel like a long and a lonely road. I advise you always to try to learn the local language as good as you can, but in the meantime there are many experts and you can meet people in English or language that you are comfortable to talk in. One thing that is again also somewhere in between is the safety. I heard stories that people got like robbed in the middle of the street, that sometimes at nights there are some strange events on the streets, even in the central streets. But I think the safety generally is quite good. I, for example, feel quite safe to walk in the city center at night, even in our neighborhood. And generally, I think it's safe. What I don't like so much is that that robberies do happen, and you should be careful, especially if you are going into the central areas, which are very touristic, like La Puerta del Sol, or the Sunday flea market in the center. You have to be very careful. And also, like trains, the big train stations, bus stations, metro stations, you should be quite careful. And yes, it can happen that they try to rob you. And I know that sometimes there could be, even in this big city, which sometimes can also feel even a bit more hard, that you can sometimes feel lonely. This can easily happen because, for example, the language barriers, or because working long hours. And in a big city, it can feel even more overwhelming because you think for yourself, what is wrong that I cannot find friends in a city like this when there are so many people. But I was living in Madrid for a year when I started making first friends. And it's not that I did not try. I mean, yes, I was a bit settling in. We were also moving in into our flat. We were organizing a wedding. I did have quite a bit of things going on that year, but I tried to make friends. I was going to a couple of these expat meetings. I was going to dance classes. I even started a gym. I was going for a language course, but it was not really working out. I mean, I was not desperately trying to meet friends with these courses and activities. These were things that I was interested into. But of course, I was open for new friendships. It was just not really happening. But after this 1 year, things started to go actually up quite fast, and not just through one source, but I was trying different expat groups on like Facebook, on WhatsApp, and actually still things started working out quite nicely. Yeah, just don't push it. Try it, and you will see it. So this was it for this episode. Just to wrap up, I definitely recommend Madrid as a city to live in. There are so many things to do here. Um, And especially if you're a person who likes going out, who likes just being outside, meeting people, but also not just that, if you just like to be surrounded by things that are constantly happening, this is a really good city for you. Um, and yes, people who enjoy more in a smaller environments, yes, it can get a little bit more difficult for them in Madrid because this is such a big city. And I would like also to ask you, what do you like about Madrid? What surprised you the most about Madrid when you moved in? Or would you recommend Madrid? Share your thoughts, experiences, comments, and disagreements. And I would also like to invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. I also have Instagram account, and I also have a Buy Me a Coffee account called Miss Expert Spain. So check them out as well. And see you the next week. Thank you for being here. Bye.